Thanks for listening to the Adam Carolla Show on Podcast One.
Pet Relief. Pet Relief has helped more than 2.5 million pets with situational stress, hip and joint issues, healthy immune system, and more. Their USDA-certified organic hemp oil are made from hemp sourced from the U.S., and they're U.S.-based farms, so they're not outsourcing this stuff. Using sustainable and regenerative practices without herbicides or pesticides, hemp oils, chews, capsules, and topicals in various flavors for calmness, travel, or separation anxiety, hip and joint health, and situational stress. Like, I don't know, 4th of July is coming up. That freaks out a lot of dogs. Exciting and innovative flavors, peanut butter and banana, sweet potato pie, peppered bacon, blueberry and cranberry, even pizza or sushi, all packaged in a healthy, bite-sized supplement. It's Pet Relief, right, Dawson?
Visit PetRelief.com to learn more about how CBD can help your pet's health. Use code ADAM25 for 25% off your purchase. Code is only valid for first-time purchases and not valid with other discounts.
Whatever you're funny, Peacock's got it exclusively. Stream classic sitcoms like The Office, Parks and Recreation, and 2.5 Men. Plus, catch Peacock original comedies like AP Bio and Saved by the Bell. For all your exclusive comedy faves, go to PeacockTV.com and get started.
Novelist and Navy SEAL Jack Carr joins us for a really interesting conversation. Man, this guy's seen a lot, knows a lot. News coming as well. First, I'll tell you about LifeLock. Tax season is scary enough. Now the IRS is warning about ghost tax preparers who don't sign as the paid preparer and could be red flagged. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day we put our info at risk on the internet. In an instant, cybercriminals could harm your finances and your credit. Good thing there's LifeLock. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats like your social security number for sale on the dark web. If they detect your information has potentially been compromised, they'll send you an alert, and you have access to a dedicated restoration specialist. Right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can keep what's yours with LifeLock Identity Theft Protection. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year at LifeLock.com. Promo code ADAM. That's LifeLock.com. Promo code ADAM for 25% off.
And now, a totally innocuous word that sounds dirty when Mike Dawson says it.
Slippery.
Ew. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Navy SEAL. I don't want to say former Navy SEAL. You're always a Navy SEAL when you're a Navy SEAL.
It's usually the Marines that have a hard time with that. It's the former Marine thing that really trips you up sometimes. But former SEAL is fine, I think, with most of us.
Jack Carr's his name. The Devil's Hand, a thriller available now on Amazon, everybody. And it's the fourth thriller in the pulse-pounding Terminal List series. Also, he has a podcast, Danger Close with Jack Carr. Good to meet you, Jack.
Great to meet you, too. Actually, I was scheduled to come on last year, right around the time the pandemic hit. So it was like right in mid-April, and then all of a sudden, everything shut down, travel banned, and so I'm glad we're doing it now. It's great to hang out with you guys.
Well, look, we finally figured out how to do this. Now we're all used to it.
There it is. Yep.
20 years with the Navy SEALs, team leader, platoon commander, troop commander, led teams in the Philippines, Afghanistan. What about the Philippines? What's going on with the Navy SEALs in the Philippines?
Yeah, so we had a task force that got put together right after September 11th, and we had a relationship already with that government and in that area of the world well before September 11th, obviously. But they've been fighting an insurgency in that southern island chain for over 100 years now, and there were elements of Al Qaeda. Actually, 9/11, the plan was hatched in the Philippines. A lot of people don't know that. It was approved in Afghanistan, but there was the actual plan that was in 1994-95. They started hatching this plan out there. They were going to bomb these planes that were headed in the Pacific taking off from Australia and New Zealand and places like that, and they were all going to explode essentially at the same time mid-flight. There was a fire in an apartment in Manila, and the plan got thwarted only because of that fire. But the plan was hatched there, approved in Afghanistan, and then, of course, a lot of the training and the planning took place in Hamburg, Germany, San Diego, California, Phoenix, Arizona. So it was international in scope.
Well, let's get back to that original plan. That sounds chilling.
Yeah, it's called Bojinka. Plan Bojinka is what it was called. And part of that was the assassination of the Pope in the Philippines, also in January of 1995. So it was all coordinated and ready to go. So without that fire in Manila in December, I think, of 1994, that probably would have happened.
How many planes did they have slated for the explosion?
So what they found in that fire is they got a computer, and they got the hard drives from that computer. They exploited that intelligence. I'd have to go back and look, but it was several planes mid-flight over the Pacific. So yeah, quite not one. I'd say more than one and less than 10. So somewhere in there.
Wow.
And it was, but how did the fire then give way to the good guys finding out the information?
The fire department came, and two people in the apartment ran. And I think one was apprehended, one got away. He was later apprehended in Pakistan with the Department of the Department of Security Services. DSS got them in Pakistan later that year. But it was a fire. They were either building a bomb or it was an accident. I've read both things. But fire department came. These guys looked spooky. They ran, and then they recovered this device and started looking into it, and then it fell apart from there.
Wow. Well, we have a Filipino producer on this show. So I didn't know that your homeland was also the birthplace of terrorism. But what good news, if your country didn't have such shoddy wiring codes, then the apartment would have never caught on fire, and we'd have a bunch of dead Australians. So tip of the cap.
Thank you.
For that.
It's possible.
Wow. So you're deployed there in that year or shortly after?
A little after. So right in September 11th, I was in Guam. It was my second deployment. And in Guam, it was about the middle of the night, and people start banging on doors in the barracks up and down the hallway. And we had a TV in the basement. So the whole platoon met down there, and we watched the Twin Towers fall on TV. And of course, we thought we were going right to Afghanistan the next day. But the U.S. military and political establishment being what it is, it's a gigantic bureaucracy. And it took a little while to get things off the ground. So we ended up flying to the Middle East probably a few weeks later. And we thought, once again, we were going into Afghanistan. But what we did was enforce the UN embargo against Iraq, the oil embargo. So we boarded ships in what was then called the Northern Arabian Gulf. They'd head out of Iraq, take a sharp left-hand turn for Iranian waters, and we'd have to climb on, board them, and turn them around and get them back into international waters before they hit Iran. So that's what we did right afterward.
Bouncer.
Other guys that's it. A lot of guys went right into Afghanistan, though, but I ended up there about a year later.
What kind of ships were you boarding?
Everything from small dhows to the gigantic Class 3 tankers. So at the time, I was an enlisted SEAL sniper, and so I'm on the bridge of these things. And what they would do is they would take barbed wire and take it and string it all over the ship. So if you came in a helicopter and dropped off this fast rope, it would get tangled up in this barbed wire. So you couldn't go in that way.
You couldn't rappel down.
Right. Fast rope was like holding on and you just slide down, but the same thing.
Right.
And then so we'd go in, so they'd wait till the worst weather, middle of the night, and they'd head out, and then they'd take the sharp left-hand turn for Iran, and we'd have to zoom up on the sides with boats, climb on board, and then they take all the ladders that are on ships so you can climb up these different levels. They saw those off, and then all the doors and windows they soldered on, welded on these different sheets of metal so that you had to then take your exothermic torch and saws, get through that, get inside, figure out how to turn this thing around, and get it back in about 15 or 20 minutes to do that.
Wow. So the boat, let me just see if we can paint the picture. It's nighttime.
Yep.
Terrible weather,
and the boat's moving at a full clip. I mean, they're not going half speed. They're going as fast as they can go. And you're pulling up next to them in what kind of craft?
Like a smaller, it's called a RIB, a rigid hull inflatable boat. Mm-hmm. So it's like 33, 33 feet? Anyway, it's like a small rubber boat, and you can fit it, 8, 10, 11 guys on there, something like that. And you had a couple of them, and you'd zoom up alongside, and then you'd throw these ladders up and hook in the middle of the night, pull the hook away, and it would unroll this little thing called a caving ladder, which is about that big. And then you'd climb up this thing and banging off the side of the ship, hoping that it's holding up there with this little tiny hook on it. And get over the side and then clear that ship.
How soon would they know that somebody had boarded the ship? Would they see you coming or no?
I don't know if they would see us coming on their radar or not, or if they had some early warning people out there that were looking with night vision and that sort of thing. They expected it, though. So they expected to be boarded, which is why they would be going so fast in bad weather, take that left and get to Iranian waters as fast as they could. So they expected it. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I've interviewed many SEALs and they've talked about many jobs, but I never really thought about that job. God, that sounds hairy because, everyone's greatest nightmare is to fall into the ocean at night.
Not interested.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially during bad weather, but especially right next to a big
From
ship.
a great height, yeah.
And you got to throw
I did that. I had that experience.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever talked about this before because most people, we talk about Iraq, we talk about Afghanistan, we talk about direct action missions and sniper missions. So no one really ever asks about this. But so after you turn that big ship around, so Class 3 tankers are the gigantic like oil tankers that you see off the coasts of the United States, the ones that come in gigantic cargo ships. So you turn that thing around, it takes a little while, and you get it out there in international waters, and then you bring on what's called a prize crew. And these guys are people who actually know how to drive these big ships. The SEALs, we don't know. We're just knuckle draggers turning this thing around, getting it out of Iranian waters, and get it to a place where the prize crew comes on. And these are people from the regular Navy that actually know how to run these things. And then we would turn it over to them.
The side of a tanker, the side of the ship's got to be 5 stories, right? I mean, they're
big. They're huge.
It's big.
Huge. Yeah,
okay.
They're huge.
Sorry.
Sometimes you have to do multiple. Yeah, you have to do multiple hooks to get up there. So it's crazy. But at the end of one of these, we get back on our little boats, and then we go back to a bigger boat that then takes us to this large amphibious ship that we're working off of. So middle of the night, the seas are still terrible. You have to get back from this little rubber boat onto this bigger thing called a Mark V, kind of like a PT boat. That's the best way to describe it. And then as I was stepping across to get onto this PT boat thing, this Mark V hit this wave and with all my stuff. I was the radio guy. I had the radio, my rifle, full loadout gear, everything went right between the two, middle of the night. My platoon chief thought that was the last that he was ever going to see of me. But the interesting thing is that my one and only thought was, hey, if I have to drop this radio that has crypto in it, meaning if you lose crypto, then everybody in the theater has to change their crypto in all their radios, and they'll know that a SEAL lost crypto. And so I'm like, I can't drop this pack. I have to swim it. So I swam this thing up just because I didn't want people to make fun of me for losing the crypto in the middle of the Northern Arabian Gulf at night. And boat turned around, came back, and they got me out of there. But it was a good time.
I love shame as a motivator.
It is a big motivator.
Yeah.
I almost chose death over shame.
Yeah. I wish there was more of that. We were talking at the top of the show about John Popper, who likes from Blues Traveler, who likes his guns, and we're talking about range. And now you're a sniper. You were a sniper. What kind of range did they want you to have as a sniper, and where was the kind of Mason-Dixon line of I'm not taking this shot because I'm too far out? What was that distance?
Yeah, well, it more depends on the weather conditions, the wind, and on those sorts of things, rather than the distance. The distance is important, of course, but then you have other factors. So a distance in perfect weather with no wind or anything like that is different than full value wind coming from an angle that can throw your round off target. So there's a lot of factors in there, and each one depends on the weapon system that you're using. So for a 50 cal, which we use the bolt action Remington 700 and McMillan 50 cal, that was about 1,600 yards was about what you would be comfortable taking a shot at. So a mile, essentially, with that one.
Wow. Yeah.
Other things like a 300 Win Mag, which was really our workhorse, that was about 1,400. And you felt comfortable out to 1,200. Then a 308 or 7.62, you're comfortable. You get dope out to about 1,200, but you're comfortable to 1,000. So each one of those different weapon systems has a different effective range.
Wow.
What would you, Brian's got a question, but first, when you're looking through the scope a mile out with the bolt action 50 cal, what are you really seeing through the scope? I mean, how much of your target are you just seeing their torso? Or are you seeing their whole body? Like, what are you looking at a mile out with that bolt
That's
action?
more like an aerial weapon. So you have a scope that is more powerful than the one that you have on your other weapon systems, obviously, because you're shooting farther. You can zoom that thing in. But because you zoom in on those things, that means that if you bump it at that kind of a distance, then I remember it getting very difficult to find your target again, because you've zoomed in like this.